Your first book is called Lead Like Morpheus, The Genius of Conscious Leadership. What is it about?
Lead Like Morpheus is really talking about the way that we grow and develop our people and our organizations. And so it addresses some very specific things from a conscious leadership perspective. How do we implement it? How do we bring out people's genius? How do we shift people's mindsets? How do we create a sustainable tenacity and success? That's really what the book covers.
Your book is called Lead Like Morpheus. How did it get this title?
The whole name of Lead Like Morpheus comes from discovering that the great leadership in the world is kind of Morpheus-like. You know, the Greek god of dreams, the one who awakens dreams, the one in the Matrix movies who actually believes when everybody else has stopped believing, who's not the hero, but the one who raises up the hero, is not the political or military leader, but advises them, and is the one that really sees things through and releases people into their greatness. And that's really the Morpheus that we are talking about here. In fact, I once had somebody come to me at the end of a training session and said, you know, we should forget all the theory. We should just watch the Matrix movies because Morpheus is the leader we all want to be.
Who is Lead Like Morpheus, the book, for?
This book is intended for anyone who's starting to see that the old ways of leading are not working anymore. They're not working in the new world we live in, and they're not working in the new generations that have risen. And did they really even work that well for the older generations too? So this book is really intended for anybody who's starting to realize that they need a new way to lead, that they're not happy with the current state of leadership in the world, and they want to find a new way to lead, starting with self, so that their authentic self-leadership journey becomes an authentic journey of influencing others.
Why did you decide to write this book?
My purpose in writing this book is that I've had so many conversations with people. I've done mentoring sessions, coaching sessions, training, facilitation, group work. And the one thing that people keep coming back to me is, we need this message to go further. We need a way to take this to other people. Can you please put it down? I want to take your message home with me. I want to be able to read it and meditate on it and incorporate it into my life. And that need is what said, well, I'm a speaker. I love talking, but why not put it into writing to reach more people?
Part 1 of the book is called Awaken. What is this about?
The Awaken is the first part of the book. It's got 3 chapters. I'll go into those in a moment. But the concept behind it, I call liberating genius. I believe everybody has a genius. Everybody has something that they do at a level which is not just above the norm, it's kind of exponentially above the norm. Where an example would be where I want to send a message to my clients, but I'm really struggling to formulate the message. And then I ask Cindy, who's brilliant at doing that, to formulate that message. And she comes back in 5 minutes with something that I couldn't have come back with in a week, because it's her genius. And so the idea here is, as leaders, it's our job to awaken the genius in ourselves and others. And that's really what this whole section is about. It's liberating, setting that genius free, aligning it with what we're trying to do, aligning it with achieving the results, the bottom line, the change that we're looking for, the depth that we're looking for in our people, the goals we want to achieve, the vision that we want to fulfill, the culture we want to develop. We want to liberate the genius to align with that. And so for that purpose, we have 3 chapters: call, followed by build, followed by release.
The first chapter in the Awaken part of the book is called Call. How does this matter to leaders?
The call chapter is all about the initial identification of genius in ourselves and others, and calling people out for what they see. One of the things is that there are many, many tools we could use, because very often people don't know where their genius lies, where their talents lie. There's a lot of ignorance, and there are many tools we can use, and it doesn't mean you have to have a tool, but there are a variety of tools that we can use to try and draw out the uniqueness of each person. And one of the tools that I know best is something called StrengthsFinder, the Clifton StrengthsFinder. And the Clifton StrengthsFinder ranks of 34 different talent themes, your number one stack ranked to your number 34, which means that if you take, for example, the top 5 in sequence, there are 33 million possible combinations, and that's just the top 5, not the full 34. In other words, it really points towards uniqueness. It's not just kind of putting you into one of 4 boxes or something like that. It's not a boxing exercise. We're trying to draw out where is a natural talent that almost can feel supernatural. One of the things I've discovered when I coach people is that very often the one they struggle to identify with the most is their top one, which is kind of their top 3% of who they are. It's that powerful. And yet they really struggle to fully identify with it, because it's so close to them that they think it's normal and easy and natural for everybody to do. And what we do in this call chapter is we try to help people to identify what are their areas of genius. Where do they have natural talent that other people don't have? And it gets even more specific, because even if you had 2 people with the same number one talent, they're still going to look different. And we need to get right into what is the unique genius of each person. And I truly believe everybody has it. And the call chapter is delving into that from a variety of different angles.
The second chapter in the Awaken part of the book is called Build. Can you tell us more?
Talent is not enough. We need to build it. So, for example, we talk about often a talent has a basement version and a balcony version. And very often we find ourselves in the basement version where we have not dealt with our baggage. We have not invested in adding knowledge and adding skill. But the biggest component of build by far is mindset, because it's the mindsets and the limiting beliefs that hold us back. And so it's the talent times the investment, to quote Gallup, that creates the strength. And a strength is not just something we do well. A strength is something that makes us feel alive, intelligent, in flow, sharp, agile. That's creative. That's really what a strength is. And so what we want to try and do is awaken that in people so that they can learn how to take that thing and apply it to their role, apply it to the goals that are being set, apply it to the outcome that we're looking for. And so it's this process of building that knowledge, skill, mindsets, beliefs, so that they can fully embody and embrace and bring that to their teams, to their clients, to their jobs, to their goals.
The third chapter in the Awaken part of the book is called Release. You have called release the goal of leadership. Why?
The release chapter is just that. It's about release. It's about launch. Now, many leaders who want to control everything, they do not want to release their people. But I would venture that the ultimate goal of leadership is always release or launch, just like the ultimate goal of parenting is release or launch. And we do not want a failure to launch. We do not want, 40 or 50-year-old children who've never managed to step into their own space. And it's the same with leadership. Now, the fear that many of the controlling leaders have is based on, but can I trust them to do what I need them to do? But if you followed the call and the build process correctly, then your people have reached a place where they know what to do, they know how to do it, they know how to apply their genius to it, and they are motivated to do it, and they are confident they can do it. And when all of that has happened, they have the mindset that you can with confidence release them, because they will actually do it better than you can, because they are applying their unique genius to it. And that's really what the release is about. So there's a lot of preparation, We don't just release a newbie. You prepare people, get them to the balcony versions of who they are, and release that into the roles that they play. That, of course, generates new leaders as well. It's not just generating great workers, it's actually generating people who have done the inner work of self-leadership so that they can then lead others too.
Part 2 of the book is called Method. Please tell us about the Morpheus Method.
Part 2 of the book is the Morpheus Method. And this is again divided into 3 chapters because it's a sequential process, although sometimes a cyclical process, because you could, at the end of part 3, go back to part 1 again of these 3 chapters. But the first chapter is the connection, how vital it is to connect. The second chapter is stimulate, how vital it is to create other perspectives. And then the third part is challenge, how we need to speak our truth in love.
In the Morpheus Method, you begin with connect. What does this mean to leaders?
Connection is all about creating the space, the relationship, the sense of the person that you're trying to influence of feeling heard. But let me start with the self-leadership level, because connection with self is vital to great leadership. Knowing where you are with your emotions, your mind, your body, every part of your gut. You need to connect with all of that to be able to use that in the way that you lead. So what does it mean to connect with others? Well, we want to connect with their emotions. We want to connect with where they're at. What are they facing? What are they doing? In fact, what you really want is to make them feel heard. And so connection is primarily about active listening. And we create the connection. It's not only listening, but we're building a connection, because it's very, very difficult to influence somebody who is sitting with barriers. They're feeling like they're not being heard and they're not being understood for what they're struggling with. But when we connect and we listen and they feel heard, they are then open to take direction. And so that's why connection is the foundation of influencing every individual.
The second element of the Morpheus Method is stimulate. Please tell us more.
The second chapter in this part is called Stimulate. And what is that about? Well, it's really about asking great questions. But why? Because very often people are stuck in their thinking. And this connection stimulate process is about empowering them to think better. So it's a process of creating a thinking space where people can do a much better quality thinking. How often have we kind of gone, what were they thinking? We want people to do a better quality of thinking. And when we are telling them all the time, they're not doing great thinking. But when we are listening and asking phenomenal open-ended questions, it's creating a thinking space for them where they can come up with better solutions. So for example, if somebody is stuck on a problem, we say, what other alternatives have you thought about? What are some other ideas? Some other ways you could approach that? Or when somebody is really agitated about something, we could ask a question like, how does that look from your teammate's perspective? How does that look from the leader's perspective? How does that look from the client's? And we're shifting the perspective of people. And that's what Stimulate is all about. It's creating a thinking space where people can see things beyond the channeled, locked-in thinking that they got stuck in.
The third and final element of the Morpheus Method is challenge, one of your trademarks as a leadership trainer, mentor, and coach. How does challenge work?
So the final chapter in the Morpheus Method is challenge. And the simplest way to put it, it's speaking the truth in love. And this is really interesting. I keep encountering this. Leaders who don't want to offend or don't want to hurt and actually create more pain because they've been avoiding the thing that needs to be said. And so very often I find that if you followed the connection stimulate process, the person already feels heard, seen, they're thinking more clearly, and they're actually open to be challenged. And In fact, I was having a conversation with somebody this morning about how those challenge points have been major turning points in people's lives. And when we do speak our truth in love, it can really penetrate and it can shift mindsets, it can create new beliefs, and it can empower new solutions, new creativity, and better leadership.
You've named part 3 of your book, Impact. How would you describe this section?
Part 3 is called the Morpheus Impact, and it is fundamentally about leveraging consciousness. And therefore, it has 3 chapters. One on leadership that is conscious, one on leadership that is tenacious, and one on leadership that is triumphant.
The first chapter in this part is about leadership that is conscious. What is this about?
So the consciousness is the foundation of this impact. It's what we want to leverage for everything else. And so the first chapter in this part is delving into that consciousness. And fundamentally, it's the awareness of self, and for leaders, the awareness of their people. So how does that play out? Well, very often we find we get very stuck in our heads that all of our leadership, all of our thinking, we think is dominated by our heads. But the reality is actually our gut is in play, our hearts are in play, our emotions are in play, our bodies are in play. And what we really want to do is become so aware that we are emotionally intelligent, we are relationally intelligent, we are social systems intelligent, we are aware of our bodies, we're aware of everything that's going on. And that's what the consciousness is. It's the consciousness to be able to draw on all of our faculties, not just our logic, but every part of our faculties. It's not abandoning logic, we're still going to have logic there, but we're going to be able to connect with and draw on all of that. And what we want to do with our people is connect them with all of their capabilities that they have so that they can draw on that too.
The second chapter in this part explores leadership that is tenacious. How do you approach this?
Tenacious may seem a bit weird to have a whole chapter, but I think we understand these days that we live in a tumultuous world where there is so much uncertainty and change and things that are affecting us that we need a very solid foundation. And the consciousness provides that foundation. It provides that we know like we know like we know in our knower who we are and what we are and why we are. And that gives us a tenacity, a grit to see things through, to be able to use all of those faculties and to not be defeated. You know, we talk about Morpheus, and Morpheus is the one who believes when the others have stopped believing. And we want to engender that in our people, that they will have that tenacity to see things through because they know who they are, what they are, why they are, and they can bring that to everything they do.
The third and final chapter in the impact part of the book speaks of leadership that is triumphant. Tell us about how you close the book with this.
This is about sustained success. It's about legacy. It's about leaving the mark that we want to leave. So this is absolutely about achieving goals and the culture development and changes that we want to implement. We want to have successful change. All of that is incorporated, but it's also about building a culture that our teams can perform when we're not even there, a culture that will see us through. You know, very often, the reason that people are not performing is not because they haven't had certain training or something like that. It's because the environment is toxic. And in the triumphant, we not only want to create an environment for short and medium term success, we want to create an environment for sustainability, where people flourish, where they can really bring out the best. A culture where we have a really strong work ethic and play ethic, where we can have fun, it's sustainable, people are in flow. And that's what emerges out of this conscious and tenacious sequence, is the final step of making sure we do achieve what we need to achieve And ultimately, that will leave a legacy. It'll also, if we engender this in our people, make them future leaders. And so we end up with a multi-generational triumphant. That's what the chapter is called. It's called Triumph because it becomes a multiple generational triumphing because each person has been so awakened and so empowered.
So that's really about creating a lasting legacy of leadership.
It is about a lasting legacy of leadership. The fundamentals of this is that we want authentic leadership, conscious leadership, not manipulative leadership or exploitative leadership, because the legacy that we want to leave is not just what we've done, but it's the impact of the people that we've impacted.